I hope everyone's been watching my flying videos, but there's more to an ultralight airplane than just going flying. You have to do maintenance. And today I'm going to do the maintenance on this airplane. I'm going to replace the fuel lines, the primer lines, the fuel pump, the spark plugs, and the pickup line, and the fuel filter. So let's get this maintenance done so we can go flying. All right, so to start, I'm going to remove the safety wire from all of the fuel lines. I'll start here at the bottom. Just going to twist this off. The wire looped around the fuel line is what is used to secure the fuel line so they don't come off. I do not use clamps. Now I might get a little fuel out of here. Yep, not much. That was good. Now what I can do is get an Allen wrench and take this plate off because I need to replace the pickup line inside the fuel tank. So as I spin these off, all right, so I got all the bolts out that are securing the plate down. Then I can pick the plate up and we can see there's the fuel pickup line. And I do this every single year. I replace these parts every single year, so I'm probably replacing lines that are probably going to be okay, but I replace them anyway. So this does have a clamp on it. I'll pull the clamp down and take the line off. And then you have the little weight down here at the bottom that is used to keep it at the bottom of the tank. Now what I'm going to do is get the new fuel line and cut it to length. So here's the new fuel line I will be using. All right, so you just line those two up and then cut them. All right, then I'll put the clamps back on. And then put the little weight thing here with the screen on it. That will be inside the tank. Move the clamp down. Then we'll put this clamp back on and secure it back to the plate. And what I want to do is, it has a natural curve to it. So the plate goes on this way, and then eventually when the fuel gets on that, it'll come down. So I want it pointing to the back lower corner here. So when I put that on and this will settle down, then it will be where it needs to be. Let's move the clamp back down. Move the clamp back down so it secures the line. All right, that's all the way it should be. Everything's put back together. All right, that is done. Then I cut the fuel line so it gives me a standoff to make it be away from the airplane structure itself, so I don't have anything rubbing. So I'm going to cut the zip ties off. So we'll install all new zip ties. You can see up here where I'm going to be cutting off the nylon zip ties. All right, so here again I have the wire, the safety wire. Let me just spin this off. And let me just move the camera a minute. So here you can see I have a T, and that's for the primer. I'm going to remove the wires from that, and I will also remove the wires from the primer up there, and I'll be replacing the primer line. So I'll remove the safety wire from the primer line. All right, so there's one section of hose. I'll be using that as a pattern to cut new line. I'll remove the primer hose from the T. I'll take that off up there next, and I will also cut that one. So let me get the fuel line. All right, so this is heavy duty fuel line. I like to use that on the airplane. All right, so now that I have the fuel line here, hopefully you can see this. I have the old fuel line, I have the new fuel line. All right. So I have a mark. And then I will cut the fuel line. So now that I have that done, you can start putting things back together. All right, so I'm going to keep working my way up, and we'll take the safety wire off this side of the T. So now I'm at the fuel filter and the primer bulb. I can take these off, take the safety wires off these. There, so much easier. Now I'm going to take this apart. Well, there's no real need to take this apart because that fuel filter is not going to be reused. So let's just cut the fuel line. All right, so that's cut. All right, so I got the fuel filter. Fuel filters have a directional arrow. You want to make sure you put that in the correct direction. So I have the fuel filter lines on, and just for convenience, I'm going to put the safety wires on at this point. All right, so I have the wire wrapped around. I'm going to cut the wire. And now I'm going to use the tool to spin the wire so that it's secured. All right, so that's plenty tight. I'll do the same thing to the other side. There it is, it's on. All right, so now I will start putting things back together. So I'm going to put this onto the primer bulb. All right, that's on the primer bulb. Now I'll put it on the T. Connect the fuel line to the T. All right, now at this point I can start cutting the primer lines, fuel lines for the primer. So here's a close-up view of what I've just been doing. So I've been placing these parts so far. The fuel line from the tank to the T for the primer, and then back to the fuel filter to the primer bulb. And now right here is the primer. Here's the primer. I'm going to replace this line right here. So the same as I've been doing, Relieve some of the tension on the safety wire, cut the safety wire off, and remove it. Remove the line, use that as a pattern. So you can see that's the size line we need. So I'll get a new piece of line. I have the new fuel line for the primer. I'm going to put this on. And then I will go back around when I'm all done putting all these lines on to put the safety wire on. Let's remove that wire or the line that goes up to the carburetor. All right, that line's off. That line works its way all the way back to the carburetor. So the line from the primer comes all the way up to the top here and connects to the carburetor. So we'll take that off next. All right, got that line off. All right, and down here it just goes through a sleeve. So I'll be able to take this off, and then I will cut a new length. All right, so I have that fed up here. You saw it coming up through. I'm just going to go up to the carburetor. So I'll cut this. And there it is. Now I'll replace this line next. Another piece of fuel line to replace. Remove the wire. Then remove the old fuel line from the primer bulb. And what this bulb does is it pulls fuel from the fuel tank up through all the lines through the fuel filter and into the bulb, and then fills the bowl up with a carburetor. And then the other up here, this primer actually shoots gas into the carburetor so that the engine will fire. All right, so now that I cut a new piece of fuel line, I will feed it up through. Okay, so I got the fuel line through everything where it needs to go, up to the top of the wing. Now I can connect it to this bulb. All right, we'll get it on the bulb, then I'll put safety wire on everything when I'm all done. All right, so now we're on top of the wing. So you can see I have the new fuel line here. You can see by the color that they're new fuel lines. Nothing's been safety wired. I'm just putting them on just to get the length right, and then I'll go back and safety wire everything. Got to replace the fuel pump, this line, and then the lines going to the carburetor. So I'm going to start by taking some of the safety wires off. Since this fuel pump won't be reused, I don't have to take all the lines off. I can just take off the ones to the engine and then the carburetor. And then I can cut these to length in a more convenient location. All right, so I'm going to remove the fuel pump. And I'm going to replace it with the new fuel pump. All right, I have the fuel pump off and all the lines. So I'm going to make new lines and put it back on. So this is the fuel pump that I took off the airplane. It's a single input, dual output. I only have one carburetor on my airplane. So what I do is I put this Y in here and I feed one line to the carburetor. Now some people will say, why don't you just use the little rectangular fuel pump? But in the past, I've found that that particular fuel pump with the one in, one out didn't have enough vacuum to be able to pull the fuel from my tank, which is down mounted by my seat, to the top of the wing where the airplane's engine is mounted. So that's why I go with a dual and a Y. So I'm going to make these lines up and then put this back on the airplane. So I have the brand new fuel pump. I put the fuel lines on and put the safety wire on to secure them to the fuel pump. A lot easier doing it before it's on the airplane than after. So now I'm going to get things lined up. All right, so I got a stainless steel lock wire. That's what I use around my lines here. And then I use a tool that is used to spin the wire to make it secure. Now I'll put the locking wire on the carburetor, fuel line, and work my way down the system. And it doesn't slide, so that's going to be tight enough. So now I'm just going to put the safety wire, the wire to retain the fuel lines to the pump. Right. That is on. Primer line, which has a wire on it to secure it. It's definitely tight for a primer line. Everything up here is all secured. I put my air filter on. And I safety wire the air filter too, just to make sure that that does not come off. I got a safety wire through it. And like I said, I don't want this to come off. And if it were to come off, I want to have a wire on it so I don't lose it. All right, everything up top is safety wired. Now I can work my way back down the line all the way to the fuel tank. All right, so we have the wire around here. Now we're going to use the tool to secure the hose. Now I'm going to cover a lot of this up with my hand because I want to keep the tension on the plastic there. I don't want to break anything. Let me just see if that spins. It does not spin, so that is plenty tight. So now I'm going to secure the fuel line here to the front of this bulb. All right, so with the wire, it's even more secure. Then just work my way down the line, making sure I have all fuel lines secured. Now I'm going to put both my hands on both sides of the T and then use the tool and just see if that slides. And I should be fine. That will be good. And the same thing, I'm going to do the other side of the T. And that'll be good. All right, I'm going to go down here to the tank. I'm going to secure this one at the tank. And then I have to get the primer line, both sides of the primer. Let's just see if that spins. All right, that does not move, so that should be good. All right, everything's new and secure. All new fuel lines, all new fuel pump. Now I just have to put the standoffs in. So now I'm going to secure the fuel line to this airplane structure so it doesn't flap around. Fuel line doesn't flap around when I'm flying. So what I do is I use old fuel line that I cut and I use it as a standoff. And put it to the frame. Then I can slide these where they need to be. I don't want to crush the fuel line, I just want to secure it. Getting ready for the flying season. And there we have it. All new fuel lines, a new fuel pump. Everything's safety wired. It's all done. Have all my standoffs in on the line to secure it so it doesn't flop around when I'm flying. We have the new pickup line. We are ready to go flying.